Yeah, and if we don't see her like in maybe 1 or 2 minutes, we'll just go ahead because Cairo's here. Okay, well, I think we're just gonna start, and then hopefully Tianyi will be here uh, for later. So, Kira, Tato, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this session of the New Zealand Tech Week 2026. I'm Emeline Paat-Dahlstrom, CEO and co-founder of SpaceBase. We're a social enterprise focused on catalyzing aerospace ecosystems in Aotearoa and beyond. So we've been here for the past 9 years and working through education, entrepreneurship, and community building. We've been involved with Tech Week actually since 2018. So this is it's really great to see this almost like a decade. So this year, this session falls under the future of emerging technologies and breakthrough innovation, as well as growth. So tech growing in New Zealand's economy themes. So and today, I'm delighted to host and chat with two of the first Prime Minister's Space Awards winner in the Student Endeavor category in 2024. So that was the inaugural prize awards. So the Prime Minister's Award is worth $50,000 in this category. It's awarded to year 12 and 13 students who is undertaking or recently completed a science, technology, or engineering project related to the space sector. And so, in fact, the space prime minister's award is open right now this year. It just opened, and the deadline is on the 30th of September. So check out the how to get nominated, or you can nominate yourself. It's at pmspaceprizes.org.nz, and I think Eric has put that on the chat as well. So what we're gonna do with this, we have 55 minutes, is I'm going to interview Cairo and hopefully Tianyi for about 30 to 40 minutes, talking about kind of like how they got started at this very early age, and then also winning the prize award. And then for the last 20, I'm gonna open it up to the audience. So if you have any questions, just feel free to put it in the chat, and I will basically collate and see which ones we can ask. Now, I'm going to apologize in advance because potentially we won't be able to get through all of the questions that you might have. So just bear with us. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce our speakers or our guests only with their name and title, because it's better for them to actually talk about themselves more. So again, hopefully we will have Tianyi Matar, who is currently now a student at the Imperial College of London in the UK. So we're waiting for her. But then we actually have Cairo Akehurst, who is the founder of Cattle Credit. He's also a student analyst at the Flatmate Ventures, and he's a new student at the University of Canterbury, doing a Bachelor's of Science in Finance and Computer Science. I don't know how you do this with all of the things that you're kind of doing. But Kara, we've known each other, I guess, like for almost 4 years now, when we first met for the space challenge back in 2023, 2024. So
yeah, a wee while back now. Yeah, so thanks for that. If I rewind back probably 6 years, which I mean is quite a big thing for me because I'm only 18. I started off in space at, what was it, 14, and I was doing astrophotography for a few years, and I would spend 48 hours out in the dark taking photos of the stars. There was hundreds of thousands of images just to get back to one, and quite often they ended up turning out terrible. Um, Through that process, I ended up working with a team on a startup very briefly for about half a year. But it sort of triggered this interest in startups. So I was like, okay, right, now I'm sort of trying to see how things are moving forward so quickly. Um, and so I started getting into a few different projects in the aerospace sector. And the first one being I built a star tracker, and that was pretty interesting. Um, and yeah, sort of triggered my interest in space and started working on some projects, and yeah, got towards starting a challenge, and yeah, sort of set a trajectory for myself, and now here we are.
So, but when you won the award, you were still in high school at Kashmir High in Christchurch. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I guess maybe let's start with as you mentioned already that you were interested in astrophotography. But besides that, was there a specific spark? Why were you interested in astrophotography in the first place? Was there were there people, books, or either even teachers or mentors that kind of like inspired you to be focused in space?
Yeah, it quickly became a combination of all of those. But the first spark was actually quite a bit younger than that, and I sort of finally took a grasp to what we were doing in space and what space actually is. Um, and that grabbed me because I started thinking, well, this is sort of an industry in a space that we haven't yet even properly considered, and this was quite a few years back. Um, I didn't think there was much going on. I thought it was sort of a thing that was sectored off to like NASA and space agencies. Um, and that sort of triggered me wanting to start to do something in space because I saw a humongous opportunity for it. And yeah, sort of got suckered into it and started learning a whole lot about it. And yeah, through that, met mentor of mine, Graham. I think he's in the call. Uh, um, and yeah, started doing a competition through the school and organized by Emeline and Eric. And that triggered me to finally start to realize how to actually do something in space and started working on a project. And yeah, started working on a team and started sorting to realize how startups worked and how to actually make what this dream I had and actually turn it into something that I could actually do.
And so, in particular, for example, space is such a huge industry, and it's also a huge sector. Is there a particular part of space that you kind of like gravitate more into? I mean, it could be like, it could be astronomy, it could be robotics, or manipulating data. What is it that you're kind of more interested in within the kind of the sectors?
Um, if I put a bit of a spin on this, so I started, well, the way I like to frame it is that I started taking photos of space and started to learn about how photography works and all that sort of thing. That sort of drew me into the data side of things, where I started trying to look into how satellites worked, um, and learned about geospatial data and data collection. And yeah, I think I sort of got hooked onto that. And yeah, that sort of took us to here, but definitely have a very strong interest in a lot of other sectors as well. Especially probably a lot of people's favorites, launch. But yeah, sort of data and intersection of data and AI are sort of my thing at the moment.
Mm. And so, in terms of skills, do you think are there skills that you have that you think, like, kind of like propagated you to potentially excel in this particular industry?
Um, yeah, there could have been some fundamental skills for sure. I was definitely really into building stuff and engineering, all that sort of thing. I'd been started doing programming for like a year and a half before that.
Mm.
And yeah, so we got well into the engineering side of things and started to learn about space as a potential avenue. But yeah, I think the engineering side of things and that interest of building things and actually taking something from an idea to actually a working product was one of those starting points. But there was a lot more skills that were definitely needed to try and actually do something with it. And I think probably 80% of what I do know now has been a result of actually doing the thing. Yeah.
So, yeah, does that mean that you have to kind of like dirty your hands and actually work on like, specific projects? Because again, I knew that you were part of the space club at the Kashmir. Is that something you think that helped you kind of cultivate those skills, or gave you kind of like more opportunity to be ready uh, to potentially work in this particular sector?
Yeah, sure. Um, Yeah, so I think pretty early on when I started joined into the space club, it was yeah, we were starting to do the space challenge. So we did a lot of research and we're looking into how the technology worked and that sort of thing. And there was a lot of skills that came out of that for sure. And yeah, just mentorship and that sort of thing really kicked off the technical side of things for me.
That's great. So, going to the New Zealand Prime Minister's Space Awards experience. Um, so, part of the, I guess, a requirement for the space prize is that for you, or the potential applicant has a either just finish a project in either space tech engineering that is focused on space. So, can you tell us a little bit more about what was the project or the achievement that led you to the award?
Mhm. So the project actually started in the Space Challenge, and we were looking into how could we use methane emission, how could we measure methane emissions from meat and dairy farms, and primarily looking into the export of meat and dairy products to the rest of the world. And through that process, we started working on some technology and sort of built a project out of turning unusable satellite data into usable methane emission measurements for meat and dairy farms. So that was sort of a combination of software and a few different things to try and make that happen. But yeah, a lot of that technical research was not just me. I sort of can't take credit for it all. There was four of us who were definitely well involved in it all, and yeah, so the technology side of things was definitely a joint effort. Um, onto the reason why we're doing it. Meat and dairy farms are sort of difficult at the moment for especially New Zealand exports, in that you have to meet emissions regulations, right? So everyone's trying to become sustainable. And the only way that New Zealand can compete and other smaller countries can compete is if we actually meet the regulations and benchmarks these importing countries set. So they all want to reduce their emissions by quite a lot. And the only way that we can actually meet those obligations is if we can measure it. And the current ways of quantifying and measuring how much emissions farms create just don't cut it. They're about 30% wrong. There's a whole lot of factors that can't be calculated. And
Mm.
so we had sort of that it was a great application for what we were working on and actually turning that into something that could actually have a big impact on the farming sector.
And that led to basically founding Cattle Credit. Is that right?
Yeah.
So can you give a little bit more background about what Cattle Credit ended up to be?
Yeah. So essentially the framing of it is making meat and dairy farming able to be regulated fairly. And so it sort of comes back to that fundamental problem that there's a lot of data on farms that can't be captured and can't be accurately used. And so methane is one of those pieces, and there's a few other things that we're looking into at the moment. Things like soil moisture and water takes and all those sort of things. These are well-known issues, but methane was a brand new one. And
Yeah.
so taking that data in and actually making use of it and actually making it accessible to all the different parties that really need it. So farmers who are trying to reduce their emissions, you can't make change if you can't see it happening, right? And governments and importing companies, they all need to be able to regulate the emissions from these products. And currently, the ways of doing it just don't work. And so we sort of have to come in and take an approach where we connect these different organizations. So it essentially look like a software system that takes that data in and allows different companies to regulate the emissions from the products that are moving between countries.
And then how is it going so far in terms of the startup?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I'm sure most of you probably know one of the big satellites that we're working that was pretty popular, MethaneSat, recently went down. So we've had to take a bit of a shift away from just satellite data. But currently we're looking into things like IoT sensors on farms and that sort of thing,
Mm.
and different sorts of measurements that are not just methane, because that is one part, but it's not the only part. And there's a lot of different measurements that actually have equal, if not more, impact on how farming goes. And so taking all that data in and actually making use of it and helping the farmers make decisions out of it, that's sort of the way that it's heading into.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. Um, how did winning the award potentially change things for you? I'm talking about like, did it open doors or, did it give you more confidence, for example, or did you get more networks out of it?
Um, yeah, for sure. There was a lot of networking coming out of it. It was good. Um, I think for me at the time, it probably would have been a big plus being how old was I? 16-year-old or 17-year-old.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, having a credential that's from the Prime Minister usually looks pretty good. So yeah, that's probably the main benefit. Sort of shows people that maybe I do know what I'm talking about. So yeah.
So that kind of like actually segues to my next question, which is like, a lot of students don't know how to get started in space, and obviously you've got the confidence to kind of like get into this. um, uh, what do you think, what opportunities are available right now in New Zealand that students could potentially leverage uh, to kind of get some kind of a first break into into the industry? And it could be like, what you've gone through with different opportunities, but yeah, just
Mhm.
curious what you think.
Yeah, I think there's a few interesting ways you can go about this. And it's exactly what you mentioned, that it is a confidence thing. Like it's not so much a problem if it's not possible. It's just why why are people not doing it? And I think there's a few ways to go about it. One thing that I often give advice to people for, and people have asked, like, how do you do space, is just meeting people, just networking. And it seems simple, but it does sort of make a big change. Being in those rooms does sort of set the tone for what is possible. If you don't see things going on, you never believe that it can be done. And just being around people who are doing big things really does set the tone for what you think you can do. Um, and that sort of comes on to a few other problems, which are like being confident enough to be the youngest person in the room, right?
Mm.
Um, and that sort of segues on to the next big thing, which I think is momentum. And I think one of the biggest answers to underconfidence is just gaining momentum. So the more that you do, the more confidence you have that you can do something bigger. And the way to start that is just start working on projects. Just start making a few steps, meeting people, projects, taking taking a big step. Anything it could be really, just actually taking action on what you want to happen and actually working towards it. And the more you do, the more confident you feel about it, and the more people listen, and the easier it becomes to sort of get into the spaces. I think once you're there, you're sort of on a roll. Anything you want to do, very doable. But yeah, it's just a case of remove that confidence barrier. And I think it's the answer is just momentum.
Yeah. So in terms of now career pathways for the sector, because like even for me when I was growing up, which is a long time ago, there was really like zero opportunity. Today, with technology and all of the opportunities that we have, like potentially like even in New Zealand, what do you think are the kind of like the interesting areas in the industry that you're seeing, that you think that the some students might be looking at to focus on, that are available now?
Hmm. Um, the one that I've found to be the most popular is probably the most topical. How to use AI in space.
Mm,
And I think in a way it actually makes it more accessible because it sort of takes this new emerging technology that a lot of young people have a lot of confidence in doing. And so how do you sort of bring the two markets together? I think that's a big one. And so yeah, I think it's mainly a case of just finding something that you're interested in, right? So how do you find something that you actually enjoy working on?
yeah.
And yeah, I think AI is a pretty popular one at the moment. I've seen a lot of people trying to do it. AI and data, that seems to be quite a big thing.
Yeah. And so I which is like, it's actually interesting looking at what you've been working on. You've got both sides of things where you've actually worked on tech, but you're also very interested in the business side of things.
Mm.
And so, most people would say, well, you need to be an engineer or a rocket scientist to be part of this industry, but that's no longer the case as well. And just with you, I mean, you've proven that on both sides you can actually play. Um, what would your recommendation be for like for students, regardless of whether they're interested in space or in science and maths, or maybe they're more interested in the softer sciences? Do you have any yeah recommendations on what they should focus on and what they should be looking at for getting
Mm.
into the industry?
Yeah. Um, I actually think there's a very natural link between business or entrepreneurship and space. I mean, it's such a new industry that you sort of have to have that mindset. And I think a lot of the things going on at the moment, people are looking for people who are innovative, and a lot of that does come down to those sort of traits of an entrepreneur, right? And I think those are probably the things that are going to differentiate everyone in the coming job market. How do you actually show that you're taking initiative and innovative and you can be a person, right? And I wouldn't so much say like focus on one technical skill. I would more be trying to think of how do you show that you are a person that is worth working with. Um, and I think that comes down to showing that you're proactive and working on things without being pushed to. And I think that's like a pretty big skill to try and gain. Probably one of the most important ones. I was just lucky that naturally it came because I sort of got pulled into the entrepreneurship space. But yeah, after doing it, I sort of think that that's one of the biggest skills that anyone needs.
Great. No, thanks for that. So here's one question. If you could work on any kind of like dream space project, what would it be?
Um, yeah, okay. Probably in the next 40, 60 years, I want to be working on space exploration tech. And actually leading the projects. That is one of the most interesting things I've found. But I mean, I would never put it as a dream. That's definitely just a goal. So
Mm.
yeah, next 40 years, looking into space technology, building things that go deep into space and actually exploring what it is we're doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think we're getting to the stage now where that's now becoming not just science fiction, but
Mm,
actually we're at least with the like cislunar, for example, economy, which is the next big thing.
mm.
Um, so
Yeah, I think it is another interesting part to that as well. I think space infrastructure. I think
mm,
those two things go sort of hand in hand. Like, yeah, how do we build a future in space? I think that's probably one of the most exciting parts to it. Like, how do we actually build infrastructure and make things possible in space that aren't possible yet because nothing's there? And I think if we can sort of bridge the two between how do we learn stuff about space, how do we learn what's happening outside of our own planet, and then also how do we implement there and how do we build that infrastructure for future generations and people to actually make use of? I think that's pretty exciting too.
yeah, no, that's really fantastic. Um, so going back to helping other potential uh, students or kids out there who don't think that they've got the necessary skills or potentially the confidence to actually break into the space industry. What advice would you give those students who don't know where to begin? So where do you think should they begin if they only have the passion but don't know exactly where to go? It's either creating more skills, and if there are those skills, what are those skills? Um,
Mm,
and or what kind of opportunities should they strive for to actually get into that pathway?
mm. I think one of the biggest first steps is just immersing yourself in the industry.
Mm.
That sort of came back to what I mentioned before, which is you don't know what to do if you can't see it happening. And I think that that's probably the biggest part because it creates clarity as you can see cool things going on. How do you implement yourself into those cool things?
Mm.
um, and sort of meeting people and learning more. I think that's one of the big things as well. Just immerse yourself in everything going on, because through that you can make decisions on what you want to do. It's very hard to get into an industry if you don't know anything about it. So I
Yeah.
think you need to learn what is happening and immerse yourself deeply into it, and then take that stab in and actually go for what you want. Because you can't make decisions based on no information. You just say get involved.
Yeah. And maybe just kind of like to add to that, where the networks are, like right now in New Zealand, there's of course the Aerospace New Zealand
Mm.
Association, which does kind of like meetups all over the place in different cities, which would be a good place to kind of like meet people.
Yeah,
Um,
get some more young people in there. I think I'm usually the only one.
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you said, it's great to be like just putting yourself out there. And again, also there are some I guess internships as well that happen from time to time from
Mm.
other companies that are based here that the students could also potentially participate in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So again, related to that, again, what would you say to students who think that they're not smart enough to be in this? Because like, yeah, it's always this misnomer that you've got to be a rocket scientist or really great to be in this space. No pun intended.
Mm. Mhm. Yeah, this reminds me of a thing that I hear way too much, and I do not like hearing it. Um, is that people often attribute anyone achieving something who's young to being too smart
Mm.
or being a quote unquote genius. It's incredibly false. Like none of that's true. And so there's this thing where smart people don't succeed because they're smart. They succeed because they put the effort in and then they succeed on purpose. And I think it comes down to the exact same thing because no one, when they enter into something, into a new industry, into a new job, whatever they're doing, no one really has all the information to start with. And so I don't ever say like attributing knowledge to success as such. I think that the knowledge comes as you work on stuff and as you make progress. And usually the people who achieve the most are the people who just start anyway. And I think it's very counterintuitive when there's a whole lot of talk about how smart people get into certain industries and that sort of thing. The reality is, it doesn't take a smart person to enter any industry. It takes someone who's actually willing to put in the work and actually get involved. And through that process, you become smart about it. And then people start to question how you did it. But I think it's just a case of just completely rejecting that piece of advice and just go for it. Because I mean, there's no other way to do it, right? You just had to learn on the job. You have to learn by doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so before I turn over to the audience here to ask for questions, so some quick fire closing questions. What's your favorite mission? Space mission.
Favorite space mission. Um, might be biased when I had to say methane set. It was one that sort of
Okay.
kicked stuff off me.
Favorite planet?
Favorite planet. Oh, I like the idea of Venus. The fact that we could potentially live there or some float in the atmosphere, that sounds pretty cool. Regardless of how hard it could be, that sounds pretty cool.
And of course, Rocket Lab also is doing a potentially a mission to Venus as well, which is
Mm,
very relevant. How about
yeah.
sci-fi movie or series?
Oh, oh yes. Salvation. It was, I think it was a Netflix one, but it was a journey to try and get rid of an asteroid. Pretty normal journey, but it was the only one that I've seen focused on an entrepreneur trying to solve it. And people quickly realized that the government wasn't going to save them. And I think it's a pretty good sort of message there because the reality is the future is built on people who are just audacious enough to go for it. And yeah, that sort of really outlined what it means to actually do big things and sort of go for what you want. I really
Oh,
like
that's
that one.
interesting. I have not seen it, so I'm gonna go look for it.
Oh,
That's
it's good.
great.
It's really good.
So, last one is like, what's your dream job in space?
Oh, dream job. Entrepreneur. Um,
Entrepreneur.
I think most of the stuff that I want to do is what I want to do, and so I think the one way to make that happen is just to make it happen yourself. And yeah, I don't think I really do well following other people's dreams. I want to follow my own.
Awesome. All right. Well, I am going to open the floor to people. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't see Tiani on online, so we something must have happened. Yeah, I'm not sure because she's in London.
Mm.
But anybody in the audience have any questions for Cairo? If you have, probably you can either raise your hand or oh, here we go. Let me just open it. Somehow I'm not seeing my yeah, my thing is not showing. Oh, here we go. How important do you think the right mentor is to your success in a project? And what would you suggest for finding the right mentor? That's a good question.
I'm happy you brought that up because that one guy is actually in this court moment, Graham. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, incredibly important. The thing is, you don't know anything until you actually learn from people who do, and so I think that the most effective way to actually make stuff happen is to have someone there to actually help you do it and actually make sure you do it. And I think it's very easy to get off track if you don't have someone, have a support crew of people there to sort of lead through and how you actually make this stuff happen. I think that's incredibly important. Um, yes, deeply. Yeah, and finding the right mentor by fluke, I met Graham, but I have also sort of organized a whole lot of other people to sort of mentor in different fields. So I think the way that I've done that previously is just almost being authentically crazy. Um, and so people are quite often very, very supportive. And the more ambitious you seem, that seems to play a big role in how much people want to help. And that's sort of been the key to a lot of people offering a lot of support for me. And yeah, I think it's just about showing as much ambition as possible and being realistic and making sure that you're not lowering your goals. You're just finding the right people to actually help you make them happen. Mm. Yeah,
Great.
good one.
Any other questions? Well, I mean, I have one more maybe like so so for example, not everybody as well in New Zealand understands that the space industry is important to New Zealand, right? Um, and so do you have any just feedback on or your own thoughts on why the space industry in general it would be important to New Zealand?
Mm. I mean, firstly, I just think it's in our blood. It's sort of been it's almost the embodiment of everything that Kiwis have always been.
Mm,
Entrepreneurs, people have always been trying to make things better and sort of proving a place. So I think that's a very, very key reason why that's happened. Um, but the main thing is our we have a lot of superpowers. We're in a pretty good spot to be able to draw in aerospace talent and that sort of thing, and also export a lot of technologies to the rest of the world. There's a lot of innovative stuff going on here, and
mm-hmm.
the sort of spirit that we have here is probably it's not the same as many other countries.
Yeah.
So I think we have a pretty good standing there, and I really think we should be backing that and backing it hard because this could be a potentially massive industry of ours, and it could be a very, very good thing for the country. And yeah, personally, I think it's incredibly exciting, and we should definitely be backing it more and more and more.
I totally agree. Okay, so we're I guess another one from how important do you think choosing the right university is right now?
Hmm. Um, I often have conflicting views on university. Yeah, coming from someone who's doing it myself. So I don't so much believe that university is the answer to getting in into the industry. I think in specialized fields, yes, for sure. Um, Technical fields and that sort of thing, university plays a very big role. But I would never say it's the answer because there is a lot of people who have got into a lot of different roles in different industries, never going to university. And like, there's engineers who have never gone to university, who have taught themselves. And I think it's a prime example of why we don't need to go. I think, yeah, I think university is becoming less and less relevant in terms
Mm,
of people choosing one or the other. And yes, um, it could potentially play a role in what people think of you, but I think it plays a very minimal role. I think the fact that you've gone is really the biggest thing because the biggest value usually is the fact that you've managed to get through university, not so much the things you learned, because a lot of the stuff that you
mm.
learn is ends up being a lot of stuff you have to relearn on the job and learn how things really work rather than how to get taught.
Yeah, and because you are right now at University of Canterbury, was that an easy choice because you actually are in Christchurch, or um, yeah, was
Um,
there any factor to choosing?
okay. I probably wouldn't attribute going to uni for a technical reason. I don't think it's going to be the answer to me achieving certain things at all. Um, Mainly for personal reasons that I decided to go, but I would be more than happy not going. So that sort of sums up my thoughts on it. I don't think it's nearly as valuable as it once was.
Yeah, interesting.
Um, mm,
All
yeah.
right, so let's see. More questions here. How did you spend? Oh, how long did you spend working on your project before you came to submit it for the prize? And did you struggle with making the time to work on it while juggling schoolwork?
Um, we started working on the project for like 3 years before that. So
Mm,
it wasn't really a case of designing it for the prize. The prize was
yeah.
sort of like an off-put thing. We started working on this like 3 years before the prize had even been a thing. So it was a case of really writing it all up. Um, on the juggling school stuff, we probably could talk to that. And so, yeah, there was a lot of work going on. Probably slept less than I should during that time. There was probably, I don't know, close to a full-time equivalent of work while doing school. Um, but I mean, there was just the fact that I just loved it that much.
Mm,
I really, really enjoy it. So, I mean, that means nothing to me. I could be out doing other things, but why wouldn't I put it into the thing I want to do?
yeah.
Hmm.
Fair enough. Yep. Okay, here's another question. For the Prime Minister Prize itself, what improvements could the organizers do to improve it? That's an interesting question.
Hmm. Um, hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think there is a lot of opportunity for more recognition of entrepreneurship in it. And
Mm,
so I think it's a highly technical prize. And I think a lot of the value in what we could potentially build the space industry here comes from people trying to build startups out of it. So I think more emphasis on making real change with it and sort of
mm,
having a real prospect of why this could matter, that could be can be incredibly important and more emphasized in it rather than just a technical thing. Because I mean, technical projects die all the time, but the things that
mhm.
don't are the things that provide value.
I 100% agree with you. So yeah, no, that's great, great answer.
Mm,
Um, you,
You have a
mm,
question?
okay, you just want to say it.
Um, my
So
question
this is
is,
Eric.
hi, you're one of the youngest people I know that have pursued entrepreneurship, and it's I don't think it's people in school mainly are exposed to entrepreneurship very much. I just wonder if you have any recommendations about more exposure for entrepreneurship or the value of that and at in an early age.
mm.
Did you get what his question?
Yeah, yeah, I did. I'm not sure
Okay.
if Graham heard it though. I heard a
Ah,
story message come up. Yeah, the question was how to expose more young people into
yeah.
entrepreneurship. Um, and I agree. There isn't many people sort of around my age bracket that would have even considered it really. Um, I think there's been a big spin recently in like the startup world, especially in San Francisco, in that there's a lot of younger people coming through, people from the age of 16 through to like early 20s. And usually the reason for that is AI has become very easy to do things. But here that hasn't really become a thing because I don't think the culture's here. And I don't think we've actually instilled the fact that people can actually do big things at a younger age. I hear a lot of people saying that I'm going to wait for it. Um,
Mm,
and there's people do sort of people that I've talked to about it around my age often say, yes, I'll do it later on. It's not like they don't believe they could do it. It's just the fact that they think they have to do other things first.
mm,
And I don't really like that way of thinking because I think there's no reason to wait. And I think we often get pulled into doing things just because of the sake of doing it, but not really chasing after what you really want. And so I think that if we sort of open that door up and sort of showed and have more people, the younger people, into starting companies and startups and that sort of thing, people would actually have the confidence that maybe this is something that we could do. And I think it would be incredibly beneficial because it would actually open that door up from a young age when people are really, really keen to do
Yeah.
certain things and sort of don't have anything holding them back. And I think we wait too late to even think about it. So yeah,
Yeah.
so just sort of showing that it is something that's possible. I think there isn't really necessarily an easy answer to solving that problem, but I think in the past it's usually been showing that other people have done it before you. It sort of shows the confidence that it is possible.
Yeah. I guess as a follow-up to that, do you think that, for example, having a course on entrepreneurship, like in high school, would actually be
Well, it's
worth
interesting
it?
you mention that because this is I actually did that course. Um,
Ah,
Yeah, it's good, but I think a whole lot of younger people don't think big enough, and so it's a whole lot of little businesses selling
mm,
little products and that sort of thing.
yeah,
And I think it is just again, people just don't believe it's possible, but don't really realize what it actually takes to do something decent size, to do something big. Um, and again, I think the answer to that is just one, showing people that it is possible, and sort of someone builds that path, sort of like how Peter Beck's done it
yeah,
for New Zealand. No one else had even really properly considered starting a space company until he sort of came through and showed everyone we can do it. Um,
yeah,
and I think it's the same answer here. We need to actually just have a few people to go and set that pathway. And hopefully, maybe I can do that for some people. I've already had people trying to talk about how they're inspired about doing stuff now. So, I mean, I think that's incredibly exciting. I think we just need to show younger people that it is possible and that they should go for it now.
yeah.
Hmm.
That's really great. Okay, here's another question. How has this win, I'm assuming the prize, helped you, and how has it shaped your current path?
Um, might not be the answer you're expecting, but not so much. It was definitely a confidence boost to an extent. It was definitely very, very exciting to win that. But in terms of shaping what I do, not so much because I'd sort of already set that mission for myself. I already knew what I wanted to be doing. I know the sort of where I want to head. And I think that that was a step along the way. And it sort of adds a little bit extra fuel to the rocket, to per se. And yeah, I think it just sort of solidifies that maybe what I was doing is something that's really valuable, and it sort of shows that the rest of the world and the rest of the country actually believe that it's highly valuable too.
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, Anybody else who have any question? Oh, here we go. Oh, no. Okay, well, I'm going to ask the last question. If you could send one message to every young person in New Zealand about the future of space, what would it be?
It's a big one.
Yeah.
Um, I would say that the door is open and open wider than it ever had been. And there is no reason why you shouldn't start it now. Um, Realistically, there is no hard block to what you could do. So just go for what you really want and set that goal and just start working towards it. Because the faster and the more you do, you realize how quickly you can move and how much you can achieve. And yeah, just don't stop and don't lower your expectations or lower your goals to meet them. Instead, work harder to make sure you get there. And I think we should just sort of instill that in a lot of younger people to actually believe that now's the time to start rather than waiting.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Cairo. This was really inspirational. I mean, kind of like the reason why we did schedule this session is essentially to let people know, or let students and young professionals in New Zealand right now that you can do it. And you're an exemplary example of why it can be done, and that that there are people here in New Zealand that can actually help you, whoever you are. SpaceBase has been around since like 2017, and yeah, we've mentored and advised many different individuals as well. So please reach out. Eric, can you put the email on the chat? And yeah, so for us, it's really been a great journey, but also it's a great journey to see people like Cairo, who's actually been doing so many great things now, and I'm sure in 10 years time it's going to be even way great to actually maybe have another session like this and see what you've actually done over that decade time frame. So yeah, thanks Cairo, thanks everybody for joining us for Tech Week, and hope to see you in another space session in the future. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.